This week I built a cool table, no, a storage box, or a stool, or just a cool piece of art. It can be whatever you want it to be, but it's pretty damn awesome. You want one too? Follow me and lass uns anfangen.
There's dirt on my hands, strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
I've had these cooking laying around since forever. It's time to build something out of them. Slowly I'm trying to go through all the lumber I have laying around in my workshop that I purchased a long time ago with the best intentions of using them in a project, but I never did. Until now. I started by cutting the round cookies into quarters. Since I still don't have access to a miter saw, I used my skill saw again. I used the guide to make sure I stay on a straight line. You can either use your skill saw to cut the halves to receive quarters, or you can also use the table saw with a slat on it. Oops, I got some sawdust right in there. I left 5 cookies whole and the rest I cut in quarters. Then I went into my craft studio where I already had set up forms for the resin pours. Then I took on the task of finding the perfect location for the pieces. I placed the 4 quarters into the corners and then I placed the whole cookie into the middle. All the free space around will be filled in with resin. You can be as crafty here as you like and come up with other cool designs. I only had enough space for 3 forms, so we'll have to do 2 more pours after this one has dried. Like always, wear gloves and wear a respirator if you do not work in a well-ventilated area. And of course, I'm using total board resin. Always make sure you read the instructions of your resin. Not all resins have a 1:1 ratio, however this one has. I'm using a measuring cup to make sure I get equal parts. And then it's time to have some fun with the resin dance!
I just need a reason. I just need to know what's on your mind. Tell me what you need and you can call my name, I'll be around. Dum da da, dum dum da da, dum da da, dum dum da da, dum dum. The sky is falling, dum dum da da, dum dum da da, dum da da, dum dum da da. That will keep you safe and sound. Dum da da, dum dum da da, dum da da, dum dum da da.
Alright, that should be enough mixing. I added a few drops of black dye to the resin. One more quick mix and then it was ready to pour.
Are wide open. I see you clear. My toes touch the same floor. Our world has been shaken on. Oh, what's your soul saying? Oh, is your world changing? Oh, what's your soul saying? Oh, is your world changing?
And then I let the resin dry before I came back and took the screws out of the mold. Now this mold is pretty heavy, but I had to flip it back to get the shapes out of the mold. I used a screwdriver and a chisel to help with that. It's much easier to just buy a silicone mold instead of building your own mold. However, those silicone molds are pretty pricey and you are stuck with whatever shape and size you purchase. So I'd rather take the cheaper route and use some tuck tape and wood to build my own shape. It's harder to get out, but worth the savings. I really like how the smoky black came out. I'm thinking of maybe adding some LED lights inside the stool, so I wanted the color to be light enough so the lights can shine through. Once I got all the pieces removed, I rebuilt the form and poured 2 more pieces. That means I get to do another resin dance! Again, I added a black dye and then poured the resin into the form. Once all the pieces were demolded, I took them back into the workshop to clean them up. You can use a planer if you have one wide enough. My planer only takes pieces up to 12 inches wide, and those pieces are much wider, so I had a choice between a router sled or my CNC machine. As you can tell, I picked my CNC machine. I set the machine to take off a few inches to level the surface. Once one side was level, I flipped the piece over and cleaned up the other side. I repeated the same steps with all of the pieces. And this is how all the pieces look after using the CNC machine. I used a table saw to cut the pieces to their final shape. Then I set the blade to cut a groove towards the bottom of all 4 side pieces. This groove will hold a piece of lumber to close the stool and give it a bottom to make it a box. For the final cut, I wiggle the piece back and forth over the blade to remove any excess material and/or blade marks. Once I got all the material removed on all 4 sides, it was time to do some more sanding.
I just need a reason. I just need to know what's on your mind. Tell me what you need and you can call my name, I'll be around. The sky's falling. Keep you safe and sound.
Once everything is sanded smooth, it's time to assemble the pieces. To glue the pieces together, I'm using epoxy adhesive. The glue consists of 2 parts and mixes itself inside the tip of the tube while you squeeze it out. Make sure you insert the bottom piece into the grooves before you glue everything together. I applied the epoxy glue on all 4 sides, and then I let it dry overnight. Once dried, it's time for the finish. For the finish, I decided to go with polyurethane. It's not necessarily my favorite finish, but I've had it on hand. And I wanted to go with something more durable. The finish requires multiple coats with light sanding in between them. Once the finish has fully dried, we are fertig! Now you can use it as a table, a stool, a storage box, or just a cool piece of art, especially when you add LED lights inside. And hey, don't be shy, consider signing up for my Patreon for more content. I'd really appreciate it, since it helps me to keep my YouTube channel going. Also, if you haven't done so, please like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you next Friday. Tschüss!